Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Dragonheir SilentGods video. In today's video, the time has finally come where I have to do the Grave of Wrath. Why am I saying this? Well, if you haven't watched one of my previous videos that I've made on the dungeons this season and checking them all out, I pretty much said that from my point of view, the Grave of Wrath is pretty much 99% useless this season because of the gear sets that it has and the ones that we have from Grave of Curse and Venom being so much better than this one, right? So from my point of view, this is one of those dungeons that you shouldn't really be farming that much in Season 4 as it doesn't have that good of gear sets when it comes to either the mythic pieces or the regular gear sets, right? If we quickly look through those, this one has a chance to inflict silence, 75% chance, like maybe more arena related. Then the Mona Lisa's Blessing, this one can be really good if you need some extra healing topped up and with accuracy and skill haste. And then you do have the Holy Hunter, which again, this one's good for niche situation like Pillar of Trials, Fair Meander if you need some extra control. But when it comes to overall stuff, there's like the gear sets from Curse are so much better that you wouldn't really want to farm it. However, we do have, or at least, I have the Dungeon Masquerade, and maybe a lot of you that are in the same spot as me, we have the Dungeon Masquerade where we have to do the Grave of Wrath for the sake of getting the petals for the Calavera event, right? So that's why I have to do it. And pretty much, first of all, I'm just going to show you that luckily by the time this came around, right, I just through a random team, I was hoping I don't have to build a specific team for it on stage 9, right, on this Grave of Wrath stage 9. I was really hoping that I can just throw a team together, and because I have stuff leveled up, like my Psychic Core and people and good enough gear, I was hoping that I can just straight up kill the boss, without having to go overboard on building a specific team. However, in this video, we're gonna go through the boss's kit and how we can counter it, right, because pretty much if you do want to farm this, you're gonna want to try and get the best team possible for it. So I guess let's have a look at the boss's kit and let's see what are the best options. So let's start, I guess, with the first hit. This one's pretty standard, same as it always been. AoE damage to everybody, and then with a 100% chance of inflicting healing prohibition for 30 seconds. This one's really hurtful because, well, if you cannot heal at all, this is gonna hurt, right? So you have two options, which might be more difficult. But first of all, you have the either landing the the debuff immunity before this one lands, or having a cleanser, okay? Because you definitely want to remove this so you can heal up, so you can deal with this. Then if you look at the next one, which is at 12 seconds, launches an attack at the enemy that granted the most healing. This is interesting. The wording's interesting. Dealing poison damage to target and nearby enemies with a 100% chance of inflicting stun on them for 5 seconds. So pretty much this one's going to be centered at your healer, but you might want to have something for this stun. You might want to try and bring somebody that brings control immunity. A perfect example is that you saw in my team, Aladia, right? Aladia is a free legendary. Everybody got her or should have got her in season 3, and she just brings that perfect ultimate that brings control immunity, which is gonna stop the stun, and at the same time she brings shields, so it's gonna mitigate some of the damage. Then on the ultimate, devours the current target, dealing damage over time. She heals at the same time the boss, inflicts corrosion that equals to 80% the current damage dealt on other enemies without shields. So it kind of seems like the way that this one is worded so far and the way that this boss works, having somebody like an Aladia is going to be your perfect champion to have in there, because you're going to be blocking the stun on the ultimate, and then at the same time, by having shields, you should be blocking the damage, the corrosion that you would get with the shields that she also places, right? And then if we look at the passive, when dealing damage, 20% of the damage dealt will be converted into corrosion. When an enemy's corrosion reaches 50% of their max HP, they die immediately. So in order to prevent this, you have two ways of doing it, right? First of all, having shields for the ultimate, so your people don't get a corrosion on them, because that's gonna get to that 50% threshold pretty fast. But secondly, it's gonna be having attack penalty on the boss as much as you can, so the boss does less damage, which means that it's gonna be less corrosion as well, right? So attack penalty and shields are gonna be pretty much mandatory. When enemies inflicted with corrosion receive healing, corrosion equal to 30% of excessive healing will be converted into HP. The monster's basic attacks have a 50% chance of inflicting poisons. I don't really understand exactly what they mean with this. Like, when enemies inflicted with corrosion receive healing, so when we heal, corrosion equal to 30% of excessive healing will be converted into HP. So it's like if we overheal, we get 30% of that overheal is gonna be converted into our base HP. Like, I don't really, let me know in the comments down below if somebody understands exactly what this means. The wording just got me confused. But bottom line, from what I understand, you need to have attack penalty, a cleanser or a debuff immunity, and then, you know, shield. So the ideal ones for this, let's go into the fight again. I guess let me just use a refill, because, you know, it's for the sake of content, and I'll just use I'll use the refill later. So pretty much you're gonna want to have, like I said, somebody that brings, first of all, Aladia, right? Aladia, straight up throw in your team, even if you don't have 5-man synergy, if you're at the beginning and you're trying to push this fight, because what she does bring you, like I said, on the ultimate, she deals damage, then she grants a shield and control immunity for 10 seconds. The cool thing about her is the fact that with that shield, every time the boss does damage, there's a 20% or 30%, with, if you have it skilled up, 30% chance to land attack penalty, right? Because that's gonna help, as the boss is, you know, gonna do, like I said, less damage on the ultimate, less damage overall. Now, when it comes to a cleanser, or when it comes to a healer, for example, let's say you have somebody like a Styon or a Fenja. You can have one of them or both. Now, the way that you can deal now with the problematic part of this one, right, the first one, the healing prohibition, because apart from the fact that you can get some poisons, the healing prohibition is the main one that's an issue. So you would need to do something like this. Let's have a quick look at a preset, I guess. You know what, let me just do a preset over here, and I give an idea. Okay, so let's say Grave of Rot, right? So let's play around with this. The way that you would want it is you would want to try and get your Aladia, so your ultimate, like if you're using specifically her, if you're using somebody else, that brings you control immunity and shields, which I don't think there's anybody else that you should use, just use her. You would want to have her ultimate be at 18-second interval, right? So you'd put skill casting interval 18 seconds, and then the initial one, you would put at 11.5, right? So pretty much you would do that before the boss does the second hit. So let's have a look. Let's see, unless we have something that controls the ultimate energy. Let's see, does she do the initial one at 11.5? Does she get to it or not? Because you want to do it before the boss does this hit, right? So let's have a look. We also do the hit with her. And then we got the shield. Then the boss does the hit. But pretty much, you see, the way that it happens, you could even do it later, right? So the way that this one happens, because the boss casts it at 12, but it lands on you a little bit later, that's one thing that you could do, right? Instead of doing it that, you can do it maybe at, like, I think, let's try 14, right? Let's find the ideal one at which you can cast that ultimate, because you want to cover the part where you're being devoured as much as you can with that shield as well, right? So this is the tricky thing, though. Like, if you have somebody like Finja, for me, Finja's useless. It's just I threw this team together because it worked, and I didn't have to change anything, but Finja might have to be a cleanser. Okay, see? 14 works fine. You land that shield and boom, there we go. You have the control immunity, so you're not gonna get stunned. As you can see, I got my, the hit went on Finja. So pretty much, if you have only one healer, keep your healer towards this corner. So then that one's not going to be affected. You know, nobody else is going to be hit with that stun. And then you can replace a Styon with something really simple, right? The simplest and easiest way, and to have somebody as a tank in here, is going to be just throw Fitz in there. Fitz is just the perfect cleanser for you, right? What you can do with Fitz, just build him with high resist and pretty much have his ultimate be cast as soon as possible. He removes the healing prohibition from everybody, and then you can heal up with Finja, Astan, whoever else you have in your team. If you don't have him, just look at somebody else that is on your account and just see who brings me either debuff immunity, right? If you look at the buffs, debuff block, right? See who do you have as options. There's several ones in here, but this one you will need to cast it after the one full rotation goes, because it's close to impossible to have somebody cast their first ultimate at 6 seconds. I think the one that's closest to doing that is somebody like a Thea, if you give her 8 ton of skill haste. Otherwise, you just cast it afterwards. So the ideal way would be the special effects, dispel, debuff. And here you have several options. One of the better ones is somebody like a Calavera, but you have to have everybody grouped around her. Then somebody like Reta, same thing, somebody like a, what's his name, Nathaniel, but again, you have to be in his range. Rose could be a good one. Then V-Cook, you know, whoever brings you those dispels, and that's about it, right? You just dispel that healing prohibition, you land that shield and control immunity with Aladia, have 1 healing, and then you have 2 DPS, and Grave of Wrath should be pretty easy, pretty straightforward to beat. Now, if you just need some, maybe you cannot find a perfect team that you can build yourself, remember there's always this one over here, right? Just behind me, let me move myself a bit, lineup recommendation, right? You click on this one, and then you're going to see a ton of options that people have used, and most of the time you're going to be able to find most of these with heroes that you have. You might just need to replace the DPS, or you can even click this and see some non-legendary options. But yeah, this is gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking it, subscribing to the channel to see when I upload next, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace, love, take care, everyone. Bye, guys.